Okay, so well, basically what's happening is that the internet is moving away from computers, because computers are only it's a very bad way to access the internet, because it's very much like a second generation of television. So what's happening now with the mobile is that everything is moving to the mobile that used to be on the computer. Buying books, finding directions, finding restaurants, reading reviews, talking to your friends, making phone calls. And so I think for the rest of the world, most of the internet access will not be on the computer. Especially, if you're looking at India, Brazil, and China and so on, it'll all be mobile devices. Yeah, I wouldn't say the communications are going to be free, but I think a lot of the basic access and basic service will be more or less free or very cheap. For example, internet access now, like in a hotel, is very expensive, or wireless access, and that will come down to like a place to where you don't even know that you're paying. It's a little bit like radio television now. We're paying for radio and television, like taxes or other things, but we don't really notice. It will become part of the infrastructure. In Finland, for example, it's already it's a civil right to have access to the internet. As of last month, already a law was passed that just like it's a right to have water, it's the right to have internet access. So I think people will spend their money on the next step after they have access, which is filtering of services, recommendations, and I think what's most important is the curation, the selection of what you do, because there's so many people, so many televisions, so many songs. The biggest thing, the biggest resource restraint really is time. People just don't have the time to take everything, so they will spend the money on selection. No, I think that's really the same thing in the end. A creator does not necessarily have to be the person that starts writing or starts making the song. Creation is also to select how to remix and how to reuse. That's also creation, right? That's called co-creation, right? But it's a creative process to take other people's things and also make something new out of it, right? So I wouldn't draw the line between one and the other. But what is pretty much sort of a thing of the past is to worry about distribution. In other words, how do people get the music, how do they get the films? Well, that's probably going to be built into the network, right? So there's only really two things that matter, I think, for media in the future. One is talent, the talent, the creation of the production and the selection, the grooming, and the ideas, right? And the second part is I wouldn't say marketing, it's essentially getting attention, finding a way to find your audience. That is probably the most important part. You have to get attention, right? I mean, basically the thing that every creator wants is that other people look at what he does, whether it's painting pictures or writing a song or writing a book, right? Without an audience, you don't make any money. It's very unlikely that if you have a big audience, you will not be able to make money, right? So the mission does not, initially the mission is not to make money with the first person that comes in, but to build your audience and to build followers essentially. And that is what the internet is very good at. But there's also lots of competition, because there's so many. Right? So the mission is for an artist is to find out what is the best channel to my followers, to my fans. And then to convert the fans, translate them into whatever you want to have, whether it's a free place to stay or money, one of the two or the other. Well, I think the biggest challenge is because there's so much noise, is to decide what is the most important, right? And the other challenge is that there's so many different disciplines like technology, marketing, writing, creation, production, you have to know a little bit about everything. And technology is now basically everywhere, right? So if you don't know how technology works, if you can't do basic technology things, if you don't understand, that's hard, right? So that's just a part of everything now. Musicians are at an advantage there because they love technology. But writers, are not really concerned much with technology or marketing. Well, I think that to a large part what you can ignore is how things were until now. Because basically, as about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the internet has finally actually arrived in a meaningful way. Now, it took a long time, but it's much bigger now. So the rules of how you create, the rules of how you distribute, the rules of how you make money are changing very quickly. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to study, maybe as history, to study how that worked 20 years ago. For example, the issues of copyright are interesting, but they're not going to lead you to any conclusion about making money in the future. Right? So it's very important to understand basic web marketing, viral marketing, using social media, building a following on the web, understanding how people collaborate, and all those kind of basic things, that most people know, that just do it. Right? So I think it's quite a challenge today to learn all these things. And I think at a certain point, if you're actually a creator, then you should probably focus on that. But you can't ignore the other part, which is to build your brand, right? Because in the end, basically every creator is a brand. Whether it's an artist or a filmmaker, they become some sort of entity, People follow them, they like them, and you have to be involved. I mean, you have now on Twitter, even Jane Fonda is on Twitter, I mean, it's amazing, and John Mayer, a musician, right, has 2.5 million followers on Twitter. So I think artists have to engage in the conversation regardless, and that can be pretty hard for artists to spend the time.